Hey guys, welcome back. We are now switching from our continuum that we were doing through our last segments of just mainly focus on wellness. And now we got our crew together with Coach Clair and then Tom Iven, who's a director of our youth sports. And we're sort of shifting gears into youth sports and what it does for people's lives and how it really affects their lives. So we're just sort of doing a little roundtable discussion on what we want to focus, what we want to achieve for the next three to four episodes, and really geared to maybe reaching people that really want to go to youth sports or encouraging people that are afraid to bring their kids into youth sports. So first of all, thank you for coming, Coach. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've done. Of course, everybody knows in Hannibal, but this has been reaching out to Tulsa, has been reaching out to all the way to even Egypt, which is surprising. But for people that may not be in this area that knows you, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and then maybe like your experience with what possible youth sports have done for people's lives that they've participated in.
Well, I've been involved in athletics and sports since I was able to walk, but the last 32 years I've been teaching and coaching in a variety of sports, from baseball to football to basketball to track and so on, and always been involved also in the youth sports, and actually got started with the YMCA flag football program when I took the head football job here. I was the one that got that going. So just been involved in athletics and really believe in what we can do with athletics and what it offers to everybody.
Cool. So personally, guys, I mean, what is your experience with youth sports? I know, since you talked about flag football, that's starting soon, isn't it, Tom?
Yes, flag football starts in September. Registration is open now for everyone to come and try to learn to love the sport of football.
Yeah, flag got me going. I remember playing flag. Right? You guys play flag?
I never did play flag. I played about every other sport the Y had to offer, which then led into cross country and track in middle school and high school. And I think just in general, getting into youth sports, youth athletics not only kind of promotes a healthier lifestyle from an early age, but I mean, some of my best friends have come out of sports and athletics. So,
and I think even with youth sports, like for example, a father like me, I could be one of those hover dads that I was never really good at sports. I participated in sports, but I was never really good at it. I was military bred. I traveled around too much. I didn't really have that chance to grow my roots. Now I have my kids that sort of live that same life, and now they're at a point where they need youth sports. One of them doesn't see the value in it, and I think even this would help a parent like me that says I have an older kid that doesn't like sports, that could cause a wound or an adult wound if I'm not good enough, if I don't compete, and I want to get that child in. I mean, what route should we go as a parent, or if you could explain as a parent, especially with you, how to get our kids excited about sports? A good question for you, Nathan, to get your boy in. How can we really focus on that to maybe change that child's mind and get them excited about sports?
Well, with my son, I kind of just let him, we tried everything. We did a little football, we did a little baseball, we tried a little, kind of dabbed in everything. I kind of let him pick what he wanted to do. I didn't say, hey, I want you to do this. And he ended up picking baseball. That's what he likes to do. So we started at a young age and, just pitch and catch, and we slowly developed into, more serious, and he just finished up the season this year, so, I mean.
Yeah, I started playing baseball when I was probably 7 years old. My brother and I, we played forever. We grew up at the ball diamond. And some of my favorite memories with my dad was always around, whether he was in the stands cheering me on or coaching me. And the memories, I mean, those are some of the fondest memories I have, is just out on the ball field, packing lunch, packing dinner. Dad was there and Mom was cheering me on as well. I mean, so I'm looking forward to that type of experience with my kids too, and just creating those memories out there, being active, doing something healthy with the family. So that was baseball. I played baseball from 7 to 23 years old. That was a lot of ball.
Okay.
And then I played football as well, and that was a whole nother experience and memories there as well. And Dad never coached me in football, but formally, I'll say formally. But at home, we were working on stuff, and it just gave us like, hey, let's go. I was looking at film, or I saw you in the game last week, and we got to work on that swim move, bud.
Yeah,
let's go work on that swim. And I still remember in the front yard today, Dad showing me the skills on the swim move. So it's
I think
awesome.
you touched on a very good point about with the youth sports. In general, we have our coaches and our youth who are doing these sports, but we can only teach them so much in the hour practice we have and in the hour game time. So I think it's super important, like you said, throwing the ball with your son. working on plays with one another.
Yep.
The sport doesn't stop when the coach stops practice. The sport stops when the kid doesn't have the passion in it anymore. And it's about your parents continuing to fuel the passion for the child
Yep.
as they're going in their youth sport.
Yep. No, you touched on a good one there too, because another memory I had was sophomore year of high school, and I thought life was crazy sophomore year of high school. Like, oh my God, the world's falling down. I'm like, Dad, I just don't think I can play football anymore. I was like, I can't do school and football. And Dad's like, no, you're good at it. You're good. You know, you got the potential. Continue on. And he was just that coach and that mentor at home. Like, no, you can handle it. You know, life's hard now, but you know, you're good enough to keep going. And sure enough, you know, thank God he talked. I was ready to quit. I just thought it was too much. I thought I just couldn't handle school and grades and practice and everything else life had to offer. But it was just showing me resiliency, you know, on how to handle, how to prioritize things. And sure enough, made it through and played all 4 years and continued on in college. So
You know, I'm really curious, and that's one thing that you keep on stating is how you had an awesome father.
Yeah.
A dad that was very supportive in the
he was
sport.
very involved.
And a very supportive parents, not just the father, but the mother too. I mean, that's one driving you to practice all the time, you know, and doing all the work.
Absolutely.
My big question, and this could be for you and Tom, and even Nathan at the point, is that those kids without the fathers, those kids without the support. I mean, what would you say? And I know we see it from 1,000 feet. Majority of people going, oh, that kid had a rough life, but look what sports did. But what is the real change, or what is the real the push behind the scenes that changes those kids' lives that sports is everything? It's not just the ticket to get to college or a ticket to get here. There's an interchange. Am I correct?
Well, very few kids go on and play at the college level, and you know, it's not something. I never thought it was my job to train college athletes. My job was to give them a positive experience and allow them to gain not just the physical, but what we're missing sometimes with athletics is the social and emotional development that they get by being in a sport, or even just practicing a sport at home, whether it's with their parent or somebody else's parent or some coach that they just met. That social and emotional development that they get is way more important than the physical skills that they get along the way. So you know, we have to realize that they got to enjoy the process.
Yes.
It's just not playing the game. It's not just even the practice. It's the whole process. You know, developing not just their skills, but you know, how do we enjoy the process of winning, or how do we figure out how to lose and be respectful and understand the process of, you know, just going through learning different parts of the game and how it affects us throughout life.
You know, I think too is like, how can we speak to that parent, that single parent, that, you know, they're working full time, trying to provide for their kids, and they don't. This, I guess, is a group thing. Is how do we tell that parent, you know, we need to get them active into sports, and that sports is going to help, in essence, raise that kid with that family, building that family community. How can we speak to that parent to get them started, or get them educated, or get them motivated to be able to speak to their child to get them into sports? I mean, what would be the first step you think we would be speaking of or approaching? Maybe something in your life, or something in your life, Kyle.
I think, I mean, for me personally, you know, if you have, whether it's one parent, two parents, you know, they're busy all the time, they're always on the run. I mean, they didn't always make it to a lot of my meets. They didn't make it to that. But knowing that it's not looking at it as, oh, it's just another sport. I mean, you go into it, it becomes, especially up at the high school level, you know, it became more of like a family-oriented thing, because you knew that you had other people you could go to with issues, you could go to with problems, and it was not only fun, but you felt like you had a place there. You know, and so it is more, there's more to it than just the sport aspect of it.
I mean, with me, I didn't have a dad growing up, so I had to rely on my grandpa and my mom to get me all my stuff. And it wouldn't have been for my grandpa, there's no way I probably would have loved sports as much as I did. I mean, first pitch and catch with him, he went to my track meets and would record those, we tried to work on things. I mean, you name it. I mean, he was always there for me. So, I mean, that's a big part of, you know, what made me who I am.
And I know you have a couple good stories. You were just telling me about a young man that had changed his life through doing youth sports athletic in Florida. But if you could just tell us a little bit, maybe a glimpse of that idea.
Yeah, I used to be sports director down in West Palm Beach, Florida, before I came up here to Hannibal, and I had a young man who lived on the wrong side of the tracks. Dad was in prison. Mom was doing her best to raise him. Got caught in the wrong crowd, got in some trouble, so Mom brought him to the so that he would be somewhere safe, wouldn't be at home, somewhere to be. And he just kind of moseyed around the Y, causing trouble until I ran into him, and he was just talking, a young man. So I told him to come volunteer, and I'm going to have him coach, and he's going to coach my 5- and 6-year-old basketball team. He loved the game of basketball. You're going to coach 5- and 6-year-olds. Your passion and love for this game. And he was nervous at first, didn't know what he was doing, but I let him take the opportunity to do what he needed to do. And he got his team together, got the kids doing it. After his first season, he comes back, I want to coach my team again. Yeah, we'll get it going. He's like, I also want a 7-8 team. I got to the point where he was coaching every age division for the kids, and I was talking to him about his coaching, how school works just as important as coaching in your sport. So he started coming after school to get his grades up and work off of my computer so that he could get all his stuff done. I got the greatest text message from him in May. It was a picture of his high school diploma. He's the first one in his family to actually get one. And he's got a full ride to Florida Atlantic University, which he's deferred for a semester so that he can continue teaching the kids, making sure that when his final team of 5- and 6-year-olds is ready to go, because they're now in 9-10 division. When they age out, he'll officially end with them. But he's got 6 more months to work with them, and he wants to make sure he works with them so that they don't lose that passion of the game.
Wow.
And I think what's great about him is he always taught the kids, when they talk about how great the professionals were, he would talk about how great the people around them were, that the coaches were the ones making these players great, the athletic people were making people great. And I think teaching him through that and him teaching the kids through that, it's a small percentage of people who make it in the sport, but there's so many ways to be part of sports outside of being the athlete.
Yeah, that's a great story.
And I think, that's like, first of all, you being mentors to a lot of young men, especially all you guys, I see it, that you take people under your wing and they look up to you. You're the sports person of the town, and so they want to sort of follow you, especially Nathan. I mean, he has young people falling around everywhere wanting to be the next Nathan, the next bench presser, So, one thing I really dear to my heart, I mean, of course, my own boys. I have a young kid that everyone loves, super athletic, really great, really talented. I mean, you could throw a ball all day with the kid. Then I have my older kid who has a lot of athletic ability. And this could be something maybe from you can help, and you can help. You've already given me great advice, but doesn't like sports at all. Dad doesn't know anything. You know what I mean? He'd rather look at the weather all day long. And I know I want to encourage him that. I don't want to push away from that, but I think there'd be a chance of him saying, at least I've done sports and I was encouraged in sports. But that kid flat out said, all the way through the hallway, I'm not doing flag football until he saw Tom. He's like, oh, hi, how are you? You know what I mean? And when he left, he's like, I'm not doing flag football. But how do you speak to a parent, especially with a child like that is not willing to be in sports, but it would help them? How would we speak in that realm, or how would we encourage that kid even from that parent's point of view, or even from our point of view, a coach point of view, a community point of view, to help get that kid to be at least in a team environment where they're supported and encouraged to be who they are in at least an athletic realm? Because that does. I mean, do you think at least being in some sports and having fun in sports can change the whole perspective on life? Do we agree on that?
Yeah.
I mean, is that
positively impacted my life?
Yeah. And so, I mean, how do we speak to that parent or even that child of that parent to get them to understand that sports is not the devil, and that you know what I mean, and how to encourage that? I mean, that might be a tough question, but I mean, what are all your thoughts, Coach or Tom? What are you guys' thoughts maybe thinking about going forward on that?
In 32 years of coaching and teaching, I never had a kid that played for me come back later and say, boy, I wished I hadn't played. Every year I have, you name it, 20 to 50 or more kids. In fact, I played golf yesterday with a young man that he graduated several years back, and we were about halfway through the thing. He said, boy, I wished I'd have played when you were coaching.
Oh, wow.
And I hear that once a week, every week, all year long. And sometimes all it takes is a little bit of an encouraging word here or there to get a kid to get out there. And I tell parents all the time, a kid's either doing something positive or they're doing something negative. Let's get them involved in something positive. And we try to make sports and athletics and fitness, for that matter, a positive thing, and not just what it can do for the body, but what can it do for us socially? What can it do for us emotionally? What can we learn that we're going to take into the rest of our lives? And I think if parents really understood what athletics what being involved in youth sports in particular can do as far as the development of the mind and the body. I think we'd see, everyone I'm pushing their kids at least to do something. And, obviously they're going to figure out what they want to do eventually, but just being involved and, no different than a kid going out socializing at a daycare or something with some other kids. During the day, that's their chance to go be around other kids. It's also a chance to go be around other adults. And you hear all the time it takes a village to raise a kid anyway. This is a chance for to go be around some other adult that's going to offer something to them. And you never know what small threads connect the kid to somebody, to a sport, to something that really moves them in a great direction.
You said a couple things there. I'm thinking back to that the kid who may have a lot of ability but may not be interested in sports. I mean, really, there's probably some underlying fear holding them back, right? And so if you have a good relationship with your kid, that's which a lot of us parents do, you might be able to get to that. But you said it takes a village. Someone else may be able to ask the same question. Hey, what's holding you back from getting into football? Dad might ask that question, or mom might ask that question 100 times, and just like, oh, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. I'm a kid. I'm not going to talk to you, mom or dad. You don't know anything. But you have some sort of third party, a village, some sort of a trusted friend of the family ask that same question. Hey, what's holding you back from getting involved in football? What's holding you back from getting involved? They might open up, because it's not mom or dad asking the question. So I've done that on my kids several times. I just have somebody else ask the question, and they can get it out of them. For some reason, it works. I don't know why. It's just a different relationship, same question. Because you just got to get to what's holding them back. What are they afraid of? Looking dumb, trying something new. I'm not going to be good enough. There's some underlying insecurity.
You don't want that
somewhere.
insecurity going as they're adult.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, and sports can help work that out too. Those insecurities and fear of failure, or whatever it is. I mean, those are just life lessons that we all have to learn eventually. How to lose, how to win, how to try our best. And so, I mean, those are just some of the great things you learn through sports.
And you mentioned something that I think was really cool, and that's something that people don't really understand. They see people, the top echelon athletes. So we talk about this for quite a while in the continuum about what we've done at the top of our fields, what we've done to get there, what we've done to look the fittest. We talked to Eddie, we talked to you on the powerlifting, we talked to you on all your ability, the weight loss, we talked to you on the MMA. So we talked that other end, but people don't see what it takes to start that.
Where it all started.
Yeah, where it all started. And so if we're looking at physically even, I mean, you said you're either going to do positive or you're going to do negative. You're going to do good or you're going to do bad in life.
And idle hands typically do bad things.
Exactly.
Keep them busy.
And so if we look at youth sports, I mean, what do you say the age point? I mean, when people get in, because I heard a lot. I've heard a lot through the time. When can I have my child start fitness?
Yeah.
When can I have my child start sports? When would be a really good age to even, let's say if a child's coming in late, let's say you have a 8-year-old, 9-year-old that's never played sports before. Yeah. Is that too late to start, or is that too early to start in any sport? I mean, what is your guys' thoughts on that?
No, it's never too late. I mean, gosh, how many cross sport athletes have we seen? Like someone in high school who's maybe a track star, never played a game of football in their life. You teach them a few basics, and then all of a sudden they're a football star. There's so many things that they might never played a football game in their life, but there's this athletic ability, and if you see something there, then it's never too late to start.
And I mean, even when I was in high school, there were kids who, all the way up to high school, had never done any sort of athletic. And just talking to them and veering them towards a certain sport, most time for me it would have been, hey, have you ever thought about trying track? And then them figuring it out, and after doing it, I mean, I run into some of these guys today that have graduated and they're still running. They're still doing, they're still being athletic on top of that, and they didn't start till they were a freshman, sophomore in high school. So.
And I think maybe, and you could please speak on this, Tom, is that, and Coach, is the success rate. I mean, you probably see more people doing adult athletics that have done youth sports. Am I correct?
Yes.
I mean, so what would you guys think maybe on percentages that did youth sports, even that walked away from youth sports, most likely to come back to sports as an adult? Right? I'm talking about high school age and those kind of things. What is the would you guys say percentage-wise, or maybe stories or something that you can maybe talk about to the people about how youth sports molds a person to love how they are physically, but then when they get older, to even encourage them to come back to sports when they drop away. I mean, what is your guys' thoughts?
I think a big thing with youth sports is the sport itself is not the big thing that is being taught there. It's the life skills that are being taught, and people
Absolutely.
always crave those life skills that they want. You start a 3-year-old out in a youth sport, they're not gonna be able to hit a baseball, throw the football, or do things, but you're gonna teach your child how to be committed to something. We have to go to practice. We have to be part of this team. You got to work for one another. And I think it's just things, you build these bonds with people as you continue through your sports or when you start, the passion, the drive. There's people I've played sports with that I didn't like them, but I wanted them on my team. I wanted the passion they had. I worked well with them because they were there, but off the field we didn't get along, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But together we can sit down and have some laughs about our sport because we did that together, and it was tough. We worked hard to go through that, but you build those bonds with one another, and it's hard not to crave those bonds with people. And sports always feeds that bond with one another, the commitment to one another, the
Yeah.
successes we have together, the losses we have together, and we develop that passion and that grace all at the same time.
Like a second family.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Now, we talked about in the hallway the other day about calling people coach. You know, so I was put in that term that I never called a coach by their first name. It was like Mr., you know? So even if I met a coach, I would call them coach. And we talked about people coming into your life, stating years later, still calling you coach. And so, like, what is the life change that you've seen in people coming from young and maybe possibly insecure stories where the sports have helped change their lives and their lives have been changed forever? I mean, maybe tell us a little bit about something like that.
Well, the bottom line is, that you hear the statement, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. You know, and that's what they're going to find when people that actually care about their development. And we were talking about sports development in particular, but one thing that I think we're missing on is the fine motor skills, the gross motor skills. You know, if you develop those when you're young, it doesn't matter. You can wait for years and pick up a sport later on.
Yeah.
You know, we have to develop these fine motor skills with the kids, the gross motor skills, you know, some rhythm type activities, some things that translate into not even just sports, but just general things they may want to do, whether it's water skiing later on in life or the hiking or whatever. We have to develop those things somewhere along the line, and youth sports gives us that avenue to be able to do that. I think that's something that is very, very important. I had players that didn't play football till their junior, senior year of high school, and yet they were very good. Some of them went on and played college football because they developed playing other sports, you know, whether it was baseball or basketball or whatever. You develop those fine motor skills, those gross motor skills, and you develop that little attitude and understanding of competition and what do I need to do to be successful. So there's a lot of things that go into the success of an athlete, and you know, we can develop that through youth sports just simply by getting somebody out, and whether they play baseball ever after they're done with youth sports or junior high or high school, those skills, those motor skills they develop there are going to go on for a long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I was thinking even of the young man that works for you that didn't really play sports. I think it was track. He annihilated my poor wife in dodgeball yesterday, but he didn't really play sports until high school, I do believe. But he said he played some youth sports at one point. It was a Mario, right?
Mario.
Yeah. So you know, you could even tell a little bit about like his story. I mean, you guys all know about Mario, but he was telling me at one point he didn't really do sports until he was older. Am I correct? Or am I off? Or
Again, I don't know much about his youth sports. I know he was a very passionate soccer player in high school. He comes from a very passionate family in sports. His brothers are very talented in the game of basketball. So it's one of those, it's just a family thing to do sports. And I know he didn't have the passion and drive for a lot of sports until he got to high school, which is okay. He did it when he was younger because that's what he got signed up to do. And then when he got to high school, it became a passion of his, which carried on throughout his high school career.
Yeah, and I think the big reason why I wanted to bring up youth sports is that you know, the YMCA here is it's not your typical YMCA, and I was talking to you a little bit about that earlier. And it's not your typical. Hey, I go to the Y. I go to the Y. You're either focusing on either it's a poor neighborhood Y or it's a community, like a little neighborhood Y. But this is like the community center of the town. You know what I'm saying? It's a little different concept. So you hear a lot of people talk about the Y. The first thing out of their mouth is, "Oh, I played there t-ball when I was a kid, or softball as a kid, or whatever as sports as a kid, and man, that changed my life. And so we need to continue that going, to feed into our sports, to feed into high school sports, to feed into them eventually going on with their life. Even if it's a CEO, it doesn't really matter. But to start that change so they don't go in the negative. You know what I mean? And so I think as we continue on with our series and continue on with our next directions, I would love us to, folks, even having you back in the future to help go over a few things with us on the youth sports and development, is to really carry on to why is youth sports needed, and why do we need to get our kids involved into that, and really just reach our community out there, because there is a lot of people that don't bring their kids into youth sports, and they say, man, I wish I could, but my kids are too old, my kids are too young, or my kids aren't athletic. That's when I hear, I think sometimes it's an excuse. What would be a parting sentence or a parting statement to really encourage those parents, no matter what, if their child is not that cookie cutter athlete, or if you bring them late in the game, what would be a good encouraging statement that we could possibly lay out to the listeners to say, you know what, I do need to get my kid into some kind of activity, so they're not going to be a couch potato, they're not going to be the one that just plays video games all day, they're not going to be one that rots their brains, but they really want to become an active kid that just wants to play ball all day with their dad. You know what I mean? So what would be a parting statement, if you don't mind, and then to help that parent out?
Just get them involved. Just have a little trust, a little faith that others are there to help. We're all here on earth for a purpose, and there's lots and lots of people out there that are willing to help, and will care about your kid and care about their development and care about them doing the right thing. And I always wanted I raised 2 girls, and I always wanted them to hear the same things from other people that I was teaching, and I think that's what you're going to hear when you get involved in youth sports. You hope, and we will, the coaches are going to care about these kids. They're going to teach them the same things that we're trying to do them. And if your kids are like mine, they didn't want to listen to me most of the time, but if somebody else is telling them the same thing, it has a great effect on them.
Absolutely. So what would you have to say about that, Tom?
I'm just going to be in agreement with Coach on that. We want to surround our youth with the people that which strive to have the values with that, and don't be afraid to put them in to learn those values at a young age.
So you guys got anything else to say before we end this?
No, I think they summed it up well.
I know it's a little different than our little powerlifting segments, and it makes us have to think a little bit to have a good conversation, but I think it's definitely a needed thing to start this new segment. So please stay tuned for our next episode, because we're going to be going in with Wayne, and we're going to be talking about the youth development socially, and what sort of he's done in the past to help youth. So please stay tuned for that. That's going to be exciting. Thank you again, Coach. We'd love to have you back on for other segments in the future, and we do appreciate your time. And Tom will be our continued guest for our next podcast. It'll be very exciting. So we do thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, this was not a planned blue shirt day. We just wanted to show off Tom a little bit about how awesome he is, so we wanted to point him out. It's this is Wellness Blue Friday or something, I don't know, so we'll figure something clever. But thank you guys for staying tuned. Thank you again, Coach. Thank you, Tom, and we'll be seeing you guys later.